What happens when you walk through a place that remembers?
Not just the beauty, but the loss, the silence, the lives that never made it home.
Step by step, mile by mile, through fields that once held war and still hold its echoes.
500 miles across the Western Front, not to see history,
To feel it.
and maybe to understand what we've forgotten.
What does it mean to walk through history not as a tourist, but as a witness?
To place your feet on ground that holds memory, loss, and stories that never really left.
Today's journey isn't about checking destinations off a list. It's about walking through the echoes of the past, asking what they still must teach us. Every journey has a story, and every story has the power to heal. My story hasn't been ordinary. I was adopted. I'm a survivor of abuse and trauma, and I have more than a dozen siblings. That's just the beginning of my story. Life has taken me on a long and winding road of healing and personal growth, a journey that ultimately led me back to myself and the path I was meant to walk. Along the way, I discovered that stories have power, the power to connect us, to help us grow, and even to help us heal. This is Travel Time Stories with Shannon. Real journeys, real stories, and real healing. What happens when you walk through a place that remembers?
Not just the beauty, but the loss, the silence, the lives that never made it home.
Step by step, mile by mile, through fields that once held war and still hold its echoes.
500 miles across the Western Front, not to see history,
To feel it.
and maybe to understand what we've forgotten.
What does it mean to walk through history not as a tourist, but as a witness?
To place your feet on ground that holds memory, loss, and stories that never really left.
Today's journey isn't about checking destinations off a list. It's about walking through the echoes of the past, asking what they still must teach us. Welcome back to Travel Time Stories, real journeys, real stories, and real healing. I'm your host, Shannon from Texas, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ann from Missouri.
We're joined by Briana Gervat, author, historian, and traveler, who set out on a 500-mile journey along the Western Front, from the mountains of eastern France to the North Sea in Belgium.
Her memoir, There Will Come Soft Rains, this is the book, captures not just the physical journey, but the emotional and historical weight of walking through places shaped by war.
Briana, we're so honored to have you here. Welcome to the show.
I am beyond honored by what you ladies just said, and I hold so much joy and hope in my heart because of this. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you, Brianna. We appreciate that.
I
Yes.
appreciate you. That was beautiful. I'm crying.
Thank you. Well, as we say on Travel Time Stories, everybody grab your favorite beverage and let's get into this.
Oh, good. I have a glass of wine. Can I have it?
Perfect. That's awesome. Yay.
I was like, I'm going to wait till the end, but here we go.
No.
We always cheers at the beginning. So,
Yeah.
Well, cheers to you ladies. It's already been a
Cheers.
wonderful conversation.
Mine is pineapple
Exactly.
juice and Prosecco, so there you go.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
So good
Yeah.
and refreshing.
Oh,
Shannon, what is yours?
unfortunately, mine is just Pepsi tonight. So,
Well, you're a Pepsi girl. Is that what Texas is? A Pepsi place?
no, my husband would say it's a Dr. Pepper place.
You know what? At least there's places that Dr. Pepper still exists, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
So, Brianna, what called you to this journey? I mean, out of all the places in the world, why the Western Front?
It was a true calling. It was a true calling. It came in the middle of the night, and I came across a one of the men that I follow. He's a very well-known explorer from England. And someone wrote on his page that was the Western, it was the Western Front Way, that just wrote like just a flippant comment that was, meaningless in its space.
Wow.
And I was like, the Western Front Way? what is that? And, I had walked the path of war through a lot of other places. I'd gone to Rwanda, I've gone to Cambodia, I've gone to the Civil War sites throughout the American South and even Gettysburg and stuff like that. And then it was like, well, if I've done all that, why wouldn't I walk the Western Front?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing that you've been to all those spots. Wow.
Yes, very amazing. Take us to that first day, standing at the border of France and Switzerland. What were you feeling as you began this walk?
Hot. Very hot. And I lived in Georgia for like I've lived in and out of Georgia for like the last 10 years. But
Oh,
like I got there and it was the end of August and I was like, oh, this is a lot hotter than I was expecting. What was I really feeling? Apprehension, uncertainty, but excitement. It was that edge of, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this, and being like, oh my God, that dread of, oh my God, I'm actually doing
Yeah,
this.
right?
yes, yes.
I'm like, well, there's no turning back.
That is a legit feeling, let me tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm
So
stubborn too. So I'm like, all right, I guess we have to go to Belgium now.
I love it.
It's far away, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, right? So
Wow.
did you have a clear intention, or were you searching for something that you just couldn't quite yet name?
No, I think that it was on the heels of COVID. So my intention was to process the 2 years of the pandemic
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything that could transpire during it and stuff. And then that idea of being the world opening up. So the intention was to just pay reverence and homage to the lives that had been lost during the war and to visit those battlefields in to honor the hallowed ground and to remember stories and to tell stories and to share them. The whole intention was to walk. So the intention behind the Western Front Way is a path of peace. And I think
Yeah.
that innately all of us are searching for some kind of peace in one way or another.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that statement. You walk through places like, and help me with the names, Verdun,
You got it.
the Marne,
Yep. You got it.
and the Somme.
Yes.
Yeah, names that carry so much history. What does it feel like to physically move through landscapes that have seen so much loss?
Devastating. It devastates your soul.
Mhm.
You think about you go through these places and you're not just walking through where the battles took place. There are cemeteries and there
Yes,
are markers and there are still remnants of trenches and fortifications. So you walk through those places and it's not just the feeling of something that had happened there, it's the awareness that it had. And so you can't avoid it. You can't run from it. You have to it you have to see it and you have to think about it. You can't just
right.
move through and be done with it. Especially when you're going out and walking the Western Front, you're not gonna be done with it until you move away from the Western Front.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Cemeteries to me are so powerful because
Mhm.
you just look at all of the graves and you think all of these lives, you know, so sad.
Absolutely, and the thing with the cemeteries is that there are so many, and they are still finding bodies. They are still finding remnants of remains
Mhm.
of the soldiers. And
Right,
so you go through the cemeteries and, they and you just think like they're not they're still there. There's still part of them there. And, when World War One was the first war that because so many men went there to fight along the front, that it was the first war that they actually the nations had to really not just have mass graves and burials, but do something to remember them and to honor their loss and their sacrifice. Because then what was the whole point? So it was the
right.
first war that, it wasn't just it was people that are they mourning rituals changed. So it was so powerful.
Yeah, I bet. And did
Yes.
you have a connection to World War One? Like, did you have any family members that fought during World War One? Had personal stories tied to World War One, or no?
No, no, my whole family, my grandfathers fought in World War II.
Yeah.
So they were in the Pacific and they were in, the subcontinent. My grandfather was Polish. One of my grandfathers was Polish. My other grandfather was Italian. So it's just so interesting to look at like the history of like them coming over to America and then fighting, for the United States in World War II. So no, I didn't know. I mean, I know people that know, like, that their grandfathers and their great uncles and stuff fought in the war, but I didn't know anybody that fought in the war.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I was just wondering if you had like a personal tie to it as well, but that's
No,
very interesting.
do you ladies have any ties to it?
I do. My grandfather fought in World War I, and then
Oh, wow.
my father fought in World War II. So yeah,
That's yeah, so when you think about it, it's just that connection to them going over there and fighting in these monster battles and these great wars that just went on for years.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's devastating. My dad was it really, really messed him up, and he would never speak of it. He didn't like to tell stories about it. He had plenty of pictures, but he wouldn't look at them. He didn't want to see them, and yeah, it was very traumatic.
I think I think that's really what I wanted to address when I went over there, is that there were so many people that returned from these wars and they never had a conversation about it. The world asked them to move on too, because all
Right.
these people came home and they had injuries and they had scars. They had to get their whole face reconstructed. And
Yeah.
yet everybody else was like, I want to forget about it. So you should forget. Like, and we do that as humans anyway. It's like, even no matter if we hurt someone, we want them to forget about it and just not talk about it or address it, and then just either pretend it never happened or that it's okay. So
Yeah,
we do that on a grand scale with war.
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
we
hopefully we
do.
go about our lives not hurting, not trying to hurt anybody, and feeling sorry if we did and apologizing for said
Right.
hurt.
Right,
In a
yeah,
perfect world where, like, people.
exactly. So I know this experience had to feel different than studying it in a book or in a classroom. So tell us about some of the differences being there in person versus just reading about it or learning it in the classroom.
Well, I think the beauty I know you ladies are readers and everything. So, I think that a good book allows you to feel like puts you in those places.
Yeah,
So, but and I think that there are a lot of people that have spent so much time doing that. But, you know, I think that when I first read about everything, it was one of those, you take a step back and say, wow, that actually happened. And then you go there and then it just hits you like a ton of bricks and be like, wow, it didn't just happen in a book. Someone didn't just write about it. It truly happened, and this is where it happened. So I think that it didn't fortify it, because fortifying is like a good positive reinforcement. It was like, it's like you get that secondhand loss, or that, you grieve all over again.
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like the atmosphere is very heavy too. It pushes on you in those areas of so much death and grief. And, I don't know. It just, to me, those areas have a little bit of a different environment than we step
And you.
outside of them.
Oh, absolutely. So, but the thing is that me walking the Western Front, I never really got the ability to step outside of it, because
Right.
everywhere there are reminders. Everywhere there are, even if you go into a cathedral or a church or a small
Mhm.
village where you don't see that there was, like, barbed wire, you still see a memorial. You still see a cross in the center of the town that has a list of the names of all the men that went and fought in the war. So you can't avoid it. You can't like I said before, you can't run away from it. So it's that
Right.
that heaviness stays with you, Anne. Like, it stays with
Yes.
you for the entirety.
yeah, exactly. I know when we've been in places like that on our travels and stuff, and one in particular when we were in Scotland 2 years ago, and we went to the
Yes.
Battle of Culloden, the battlefield,
Yes.
and I literally got so emotional and overwhelmed, like, walking around out on the grounds and everything and seeing the mass graves and the markers, and it really just overwhelmed me. I cried. I, like, went
Yeah.
through all the feelings even though I didn't know anybody that 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 fought there, but just the whole present there was like a presence there
Yes. Very much
on
so.
the battlefield.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happened so many years ago, the presence was still there on the battlefield, and it
You
Oh,
was
can
yeah.
very
feel,
overwhelming.
yeah, you can feel the sacredness of the land is the best way that I can put that.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, yeah, like, that kind of experience was exactly what I experienced walking along these battlefields, like,
Mm.
you feel that heaviness and you feel like it's like this center of loss, and you
Mhm.
Yes.
just it's like almost like it's not like a black hole, but it's a vortex in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's very spiritual and emotional
Yes.
when you visit
Yes.
places like that.
Very much so. Very, very much so.
So what were some of the hardest moments for you along that walk?
Blisters all the time.
I bet, yeah.
No, like, Shannon, I had blisters, like, in places that you're like, I don't even think that touched my boot, and like, and you're like, surely I can do this walk in the middle of the forest with rocks everywhere with no shoes on. Like, surely this is a better idea. So yeah, blisters in the beginning, and then after a while they got better. Water, not having access to water at all
Oh.
times.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that was very difficult because, you need to hydrate, especially walking those distances. And there's no amount of water that you can drink that's going to fully help you recover from that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the rain, there was a lot of rain.
Gosh, that would be hard. Yeah, out there
That
walking
would
in the
make it
rain.
miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so, have you ever been to Southeast Georgia?
Yes.
I'm sure this
Yes.
happens in Texas too. I'm sure this happens in Missouri with tornadoes and stuff. But you look at a storm, like, those big storms because of the heat,
Oh,
they
yeah.
like build in the distance. You're like, maybe it'll move past, like it won't come, like, and then
Yeah.
Right.
and then your house shakes because of the thunder, and you're
Yeah.
like, I might die. Like, there's a good chance, like, this might kill me. It was like storms like that, and I was like, "Whatever," and then you put yourself in the footsteps, like the feet of like the shoes of soldiers, and you're like, "They lived through worse. They lived through worse. I can make it through a
Yes.
rainstorm. I can be a little wet for a little while and move through this."
Yeah.
Brianna, you said something powerful that we haven't learned from history, only how to repeat it. Can you expand on that?
I think we witness it every day when we watch the news or we have conversations that, it's like almost like the roof is on fire or the sky is falling. So you have this, you see it happening. You see all these things and you're like, you know, I really am a firm believer that especially for us as a country, we play the short game. We don't really look at it in terms of longevity and what things mean in the long run. So I think that we do things and we make these mistakes because we think that this time it'll be different.
Mhm.
This time we will like the outcome will be better or the way we expected.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's not the way it works. It's not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, that's what I mean is that we just keep on repeating history. It's like we define madness on a daily basis.
That's true. We do. We don't learn. Was there a particular place that just really overwhelmed you by what it represented,
I
more so
always
than,
go,
than any other on the journey?
oh yeah. I always go back to Verdun. Verdun for me. And it's interesting because I read a book just this past year called The Beauty and the Sorrow. And it's like, you like you were saying, Shannon, when you go to places and you're just overwhelmed by like the sacredness and the hallowness of it.
Mhm.
I got to Verdun and it scared the bejesus out of me. It
Really?
scared me.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was a 300-day battle and hundreds of thousands of men, like, they would like, I say it in the book that, like, millions of men went into the inferno that was Verdun, and, 300,000 of them did not make it out, and so, Verdun was one of those places that you just come into, and it's like, you should stay there for a little bit, but you can't wait to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
So
that.
yeah, so Verdun was very much like Verdun was it was, you walk through it and I was by myself. So it wasn't like I was like someone there by my side to be like, please make me feel better. Please hold my hand and tell me that it's gonna be okay.
Right.
It's like you go
Right.
through and you're just like, I don't know if you've ever been to Gettysburg, but like my friend has a story.
Mhm.
I've been to, like the last time I went to Gettysburg, I like if you stay there quiet enough, I'm like do I hear like a gun loading up? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's you still feel the ghosts. And
Yeah,
Verdun is very much like that. Like you still feel like there are so many ghosts. You still feel like the soldiers are still fighting.
yeah, yeah. I lived in Tennessee for many, many years, and I actually lived right by Shiloh National Park, the Battle of Shiloh. And when you walk the grounds at Shiloh, the same thing happens. You
Yes.
can still feel the ghosts there on the grounds as you're walking around. It's very powerful.
I've heard that about Shiloh. Like one a woman that that I know down in Georgia, she's like, you have to go to Shiloh. And I'm like, I don't Shiloh is one of those places. It's just one of those places that you just, it's almost like there's almost like an untouchable part of war as well that you're just like, I don't know if I want to experience that. I don't know if I want to see that. And so you being close to that, it's crazy.
Yeah, I took Ann there several years ago. She had never been, and we did a road trip to Tennessee. And so one of our stops was I took her to Shiloh because she's like me, she likes to visit the battlefield. So I
Right.
took her, and I think she got the same feelings when she
Yeah.
was there with me.
It was
Yeah,
very
no.
powerful.
Well, it's good that you had her. Good thing you had Shannon to take you.
Right. And she'd
Like
been there
it's
a
like
lot. So she was the perfect tour guide. I mean, she knew the whole
Yeah, I
everything.
my My parents had a, farm in Tennessee, and we spent every summer there, and so every summer we went to Shiloh every single summer. Then my husband and I lived there for 9 years before we came back to Texas, and so I basically grew up with Shiloh, and I know the whole grounds everywhere there is.
I mean, that's a cool you must be a great tour guide though to be there, it just for like to walk those grounds and so you know exactly my experience at Shiloh.
Before we continue, I want to share something really special we've created for this community. If you've ever listened to an episode and felt something deeper, like a moment that stayed with you, or a story that made you reflect on your own life, we wanted to give you a place to go with that. We've officially launched our Travel Time Stories membership, where you can go beyond listening and become part of the experience. Inside the membership, you'll get access to the Story Circle, our private community where we reflect on each episode through guided journal prompts, share our stories, and connect through monthly meetups. There are also additional tiers with opportunities to go even deeper, from storytelling and sharing your voice to being part of the creative journey behind the scenes and joining us on our yearly group travels. If this speaks to you, you can join us through the link in the show notes or visit our website, traveltimestories.com. We would truly love to have you join the community. So, walking through those places, Brianna, did it change how you see the world today?
I think about that so much. Like yes, I think it did because I think that, I began this walk with like a certain naivete that if
Yeah.
people just learned history, if people just went out of their way to go to these places, that the world would be a better place. And it's like, no, the world has been the same since its inception, since the beginning. We're
Yep.
not changing. And that in itself is its own heartbreak. It's like you're like, but we can change, and the thing is that it would take a collective change. It would take people to have a similar way of looking at the world, and that would take away the beauty of the world too.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. It would. That's what's wonderful about our world is all of our differences.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
it makes it beautiful at the same time, that you can go to these places or you can experience something and it's different for everyone,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
but we can still find common ground in some way too.
Yeah. So you set out in search of hope and peace. Do you think you found it?
Sometimes. Sometimes I did, sometimes I definitely found that hope and peace, and it was a beautiful, like, there were beautiful moments where, the weather was just so, and the sun was shining, and everything was quiet, and my feet didn't hurt. Or, I got to walk through Champagne, so I was at a champagne house, and I was drinking champagne, and I'm like, "Life is
That's
good," you
amazing.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good, wasn't it?
Oh my god, and you woulda loved it. You woulda like, once you go
I
to
would have.
Champagne, though, like, you're gonna be like, "Pineapple juice and prosecco? No, thank you.
Yeah.
I need champagne."
The real thing. It's on my bucket list, girl. It's on my bucket list.
Oh, you'll
So
have to go there.
I'm ready.
Me too.
I'm really happy to hear that you did find that peace while you were there. Was it more than you expected it to be?
I think that you ladies might agree that, like, as you get older, you have to kinda tamper your expectations.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Yep.
that we do. Like, it doesn't mean that we tamper them by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I keep my expectations I kid around with people that I work with and stuff, and I'm like, "Listen, your expectations are up here, like, I need them, like, just
Down here.
yeah, not for any other reason, but I don't wanna disappoint you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that just being in France and, like, the French, despite what people say, they're so nice. To me,
I
they're
love it.
nice. Yeah. So, like, I think my expectations were met in that way. Like, everybody was curious. Everyone was,
Yep.
like, very, very nice, and they were very accepting. So, in that way, my expectations were, like, they were above and beyond. And then, living in America, we have artificial church bells. So, like, when I got to hear church bells, like real church bells, like,
Isn't it
my
amazing?
expectation, oh my God. And it is the most angelic sound in the world. So, like,
Yes.
Yeah.
my yeah, so now all of my experiences are tailored around, are there church bells? Are
I
there
love it.
like, where can I hear them?
And did you find yourself knowing that at noon, catching yourself going, it's almost noon. The bells are getting ready to chime. Because when we're
Yes.
in Europe, I do that. I'm like, it's almost noon. The bells are going to chime in a minute. And I stop what I'm doing and I wait for a minute so I can listen. Because
Oh
we
my
don't
gosh,
have
like,
that
I
here.
was, what's that?
We don't have that here. We really don't.
No, and I wish we did.
Mm-mm.
I really wish we
Me
did
too.
because it's just such a, it's awe-inspiring. Not even awe-inspiring, it's tremendous.
It's
Mhm.
part of our history,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't even just noon, like, you would be able to tell the time, like, there was like, you'll see in the book, Shannon, like, there's, like, I learned to tell the time by the church bells, that you
Yes,
would
you
just
do.
hear them ring
Yeah.
and be like, "All right, it's this time." You didn't have to look at your watch or your phone or anything else like that. So, like, there was this one, so I had walked for a couple of days in the forest, in the mountains of the Vosges, and then I got to Munster, which is still in Alsace, and it's a small city, but it's beautiful, and the church bells started to ring. I legitimately it was like an outer body experience. It was
Yes.
where like, everything was like, the color of the sky was perfect. I was hungry. I knew I was gonna get to eat soon, and I was gonna eat French food, and these church bells did not stop ringing. It was like 15 minutes of celebration.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is awesome.
And when I say 15 minutes, it could have been like 2, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
But that set the tone for, like, literally set the tone for the rest of the trip. Like, that was what I
Right.
looked forward to in each city I went through, was to go, where are the church bells? Where are they ringing?
I love that
And
because
to go into a moment in the book, so during World War One, they took down the church bells and they smelted them to make bullets and artillery and stuff. And then when the war ended, when the armistice was declared, the city of Reims, the cathedral there, is devastatingly beautiful. And they took the church bell, and on the armistice day, they hoisted it back up into the bell tower and rang it.
what a thing to behold, really.
Right?
Exactly. What an experience. Yeah.
Your memoir is not just a travel story, it's layered with reflection, history, and emotion. What was it like putting this experience into words?
Hard. Really, really, really.
Oh,
It
I
was
bet.
hard because, what do you write about? Do you write about, we live in very political times as always, like we live
Mhm.
in a time where like, did I want to make it about politics? No, I wanted people to find common ground, like we talked about before.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so like I wanted to stray away from your side, my side, all of that other stuff. And I wanted to share stories that people could relate to. So then I started to write about Tolkien because who doesn't love The Lord of the Rings?
Yep.
And I wrote
Right.
about yeah, because it's so magical and it's so fantastical, and
Mhm.
he fought in the Great War, so I wanted to relay the story through the lens of poetry, of the soldiers and the artists that fought in the war. So to really write it down and then to describe everything, it was a lot of hard work. It was when I write, I want people to feel things, and you can't force
Mhm.
people to feel things, you can't
Yep.
force people to learn things, you can't be like, "Look what I saw," and, like, be proud of me and celebrate what I've done, like, who cares, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how could you write a story that even if you didn't care about history, that you would still gain something from the story? So that's what I tried to do, and it took me 3 years to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would write it differently now, I think, if I were to write it again, you know?
Hey, but you learned through doing, so now you know for your
Yeah.
next
Exactly.
one
Yeah.
what you do differently.
Yeah. But the next book.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, the next
So,
book is gonna be, like, historical fiction. I'm I'm just gonna let it
are you writing the next Outlander? Just
Oh
wanna
my
know.
gosh. I haven't even read it. It's in my basket. It's been in my cart for so long, and then I'm like, "That's a lot of pages." Like, and not that I heard it was such a good book, though.
Oh gosh, it's a
It's so
wonderful
good,
series.
Brianna.
It absolutely is.
Is it? Okay, then I'll have to read it. It's just like because, like, you
And
go and you're like,
the
tell me.
history the history is on point. Ask Shannon. Usually on
Yeah.
these types of books, the history is not on point, and at that point it loses me. I'm like, I can't get into this because this did not really happen, or this could not have happened in this time frame. No, you will not get that feeling with this series. You will be like, whoa, yeah,
I
you will
love
love it.
that.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way as you ladies. Like if I
Mhm.
read something like, I read a book about World War II in France and some of the things that this woman wrote, I was like, who let you write that? Who let you put those words together in a sentence and send it out into the world, Because
Right.
it's not you're going to lose your readers that know these things. You're going to lose people
Mhm.
that is
Yeah.
important and you want to relay that. So yeah, that sounds yeah, so I'll have to finish it.
Yeah, I know it's called historical fiction, but the fiction part of it is supposed to be like the storyline,
The
not
story.
the facts of the history.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, did writing the book change how you understood your journey? I mean, obviously it had to if it took you 3 years to try to get everything put together the way you wanted it to.
Yeah, I think that, in the beginning of the journey, it was, going out there and experiencing things. I wanted to, I think that history works better when you don't overly explain it.
Mhm.
So I think it changed. I think that now I'm getting to the point, like we talked about, like what you were talking about in the beginning of the podcast, is that, really regarding it as how much of a healing journey it had been and how I'm still processing it and going through it and thinking, oh my gosh, I had such profound moments of grace and it is in every fiber of my being now. It's woven into my own body and my own spirit.
Yeah,
Right.
So that was a changed. I think I always will look at this journey as the most pivotal moment of my life.
that's amazing.
I love that.
I mean, well, you said you were called to it, so that's why.
Yeah.
That's why
Exactly.
you were called. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
How do you still carry that experience with you now back in everyday life? Does it I'm sure that you pull things from that experience even now.
That's a great question. I think that I I look at it from different angles. It's that Joni one of my favorite Joni Mitchell songs is Both Sides Now.
Me too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
right? Is it beautiful? And I love All I Want too. Like I listened to Miles and Miles in my
Yes.
room in college for like ever. It was like my favorite album for the longest time. But like, you look at it from both sides now, from up and
Right.
down, from in and out, from win or lose. And I think that like to look at this journey and to have had those experiences, I can go back and reach into one of them and then be like, or if I'm having a bad day and I'm like, "Oh, remember that day in France that I had this delicious meal?" If I'm having a moment of stress, I think, "Oh my gosh, remember when like the sun rose just so on the Western Front?" And you know what I mean? Like like
Yes.
it's almost like an anchor. It's almost like a true anchor of stability in the chaos.
That's great.
I love that.
So,
I agree.
on your journey, you did this 500-mile walk. Like, were you camping? Where were you staying as you're going along on the walk?
Camping half of the time, and then staying at hotels, like, if I had walked, sometimes if I walked, like, 12 to 15 miles, there was a hotel that I would be like, "Okay, I'm going to stay there," and then you get to the bigger cities, and you have to stay at a hotel, which was fine, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I camped out it's about a little half and half, so I camped out half of the time and stayed in hotels the other half.
Wow, kudos to you, girl. I don't think I
Yes,
can do
girl.
it.
Honestly, looking back, like, look at Shannon, looking back now, I'm like, I don't know, like, if I'd have the audacity to do that, like, it was like, oh my gosh, like, it was just so like I said in the beginning, I was very stubborn, so I'm like, I have to do it, and, when you're in rural areas, there are no hotels, there are no places to stay, you can't call
Exactly.
a cab. If you miss the bus in the morning, it ain't coming. It's not no
Right.
one's coming to save you. So,
Yeah.
I had a roof that I carried with me that I could put over my head when I needed to.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And how was it being disconnected from technology like that?
Glorious.
Wasn't it
Oh,
wonderful?
love it.
It was glorious. It was absolutely much needed and perfect. I intentionally didn't keep my SIM card on my phone. I connected to Wi-Fi when I was at hotels and stuff, but at night when I knew how far I'd come, if I had enough water and I had food, like I did not put my SIM card in. It was just like, here I am, here's what I'm doing. I mean, we're all of an age that we remember a time before that and we ache for it.
Mhm.
Right.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Yes.
I was on another podcast and I was on there telling my adoption story. As I'm telling like my journey of finding my birth family, I was telling the host, I was like, yeah, this was pre-internet. So like the only way you had to like find somebody or communicate was a letter that you
Right.
actually physical letter that you put in the mailbox and then had to wait, weeks to get a response.
But
Praying
remember
that you got a response.
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't you remember, like, how much it felt like that longing was such a part of our own story, and, like,
Yeah.
I would like, even just waiting for television shows to come on once a week, and if you miss
Right.
it's like that
Yeah.
we live in such a, like, instant gratification world, and so, like, I mean, that's did you get the response?
Yeah, and I mean that's what in response to what you were just saying, at the time back then when you sent letters and you were waiting in anticipation, are you going to get a response or not? And then you actually get a response back. It was like so meaningful and like, do you not? I don't know if y'all did, but I used to keep every letter I ever got in a box. Like you
Yes.
cherished them like little treasures,
Oh, I
Yeah. Yeah.
still have them, are you kidding me? I still
Oh, I
have the
do too. I
letters.
still have all my letters.
Yeah, like, I just feel like that correspondence is, like that I was thinking about it today because, now all these kids my aunt called me and she left a message, and, like, you have all these kids that are like, "Oh my god, why do you leave a message on my phone?" And I'm like, "I'm saving every single message from my aunts and my parents because there's gonna be a time that maybe, like, in the future that I'm not gonna hear their voice, and I'm gonna have
Yeah.
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those letters are a testament to our ability to communicate in that kinda way.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I so many days I miss those days, pre-internet and when we didn't have cell phones, you had a physical phone that you
Right.
you had to
Yeah,
a landline that you called somebody on.
and you had to, like, if you were still young, you had to, like, talk to their parents and be like, "Hey, Mrs. So and so, is
Yeah.
Bobby Sue around?"
Right.
Exactly, exactly.
And
And
then
you
you
had to
hope and
you had to have a long cord so you could drag the phone down the hall into your room and talk at night so your parents
yes!
Right.
And then you hope that the cordless was put on the charger so that way you, like, when it did
Yeah.
finally,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like, oh, those were the days.
Oh,
Yeah,
when the cordless
exactly.
came out, we thought we were uptown, let me tell you. No
Oh, I
phone
know,
cord.
right? Yeah.
People
Well, I
people
mean,
these days have no idea.
No.
yeah. Same
I
with
had
the
to talk
TV.
on the phone. Yeah, same.
Yeah, and the thing about, like, yeah, like, when remember when there was no call waiting? It was like you got a busy signal, and, like,
Yeah.
if you couldn't get in touch with them before, like, my parents would, like, they were like, "If anybody calls you after 10 o'clock, like, you're not friends with them anymore."
Oh,
10 o'clock
yeah,
at night, you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
And I
Same at
was
my
exactly.
late.
house.
Yeah.
Right.
And now I text my nephews, and I'm like, "Why are you still up at midnight?"
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
why 1, why am I messaging you? You should be in bed. But also, like, why am I able to connect with you, or why are you still looking at your phone so late at night?
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. I
Yeah,
love it.
it's a crazy world now, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so
Yeah.
crazy. It's, like, crazy at the speed at which we move, you know? There's
Yeah.
no slowness. There's just it's just momentum, and you're just like, that's why we're all out of our minds.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Uh,
exactly.
we need slow down time, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You need time to disconnect and do self-care, and
Yeah,
it's very important.
absolutely. And that's why I walked 500 miles across the Western Front. I was like, I wouldn't necessarily call walking 500 miles, like, self-care. I wouldn't put that in, like, "Oh, yeah, put it in your beauty repertoire, put it in your regimen." Like, wake up, wash your face.
Right. And you were detoxing, you were sweating, out with nature. That's self-care,
Yeah, or self-flagellation. I mean, either way.
right?
Could
That's true, that's very
could be
true.
a little bit of each.
Yep, that
So
was a
great.
little of both there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So why do you think people are drawn to places with heavy past?
I think going back to what you were saying, like your grandfather fought in World War I or anything, they want to go to the places where people they might have lost somebody or that such profound history happened. I think they're drawn to like I know I'm drawn to it because I want to understand. I want to see, I want to feel. If I mean, if you're not paying attention to that stuff, like you're only distracted, and it's remembrance. Remembrance is such a big part of the human psyche. And you
Yes.
can go back to what you're saying with self-care and people like dealing with like inherited trauma or multi-generational trauma, all the lingo that is like up in the air these days. But I think that that is we as, citizens and humans of the 21st century, we've inherited tens of thousands of years of that. Maybe we should
Yeah,
go and address it, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to see these places in person and not just looking at pictures online.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I
Like,
mean, looking at a picture online is nice and all, but you don't get the same from it as you do if you're standing right there on the place where it's at or what happened there, whatever. That's going to move you and change you. And like you say, become part of you, where
Yes.
looking at a picture online is not going to do that.
no, and you can be dismissive of it because we like, what do they say? That we see more images in a day than we did in 1983?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's wild when you think about it. So, like, if you're seeing something, so, like, I did my master's thesis on the Rwanda genocide, and I looked at the most terrible images, but I stopped and I didn't, not that I stopped myself from looking at those images, not that I like, it's,
Right.
but I would stop. And there were so many times that I threw the book across the room or put my computer down because you have to see that. You have to see the darkness in order to see the light.
Yep,
Yeah, I agree.
exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if it moves you this way being a historian, but every time I go to DC, every single time I see the monuments, they touch me and move me,
Me too.
and yeah, it's so powerful seeing the
It's
monuments.
magical. Yes.
Really, I agree with you, both you ladies. I've gone to DC like 2 or 3 times this past fall, 2 times this past fall, and I every time I was like, I went out of my way to go to the monuments. Like, you go to the Lincoln Memorial,
Yeah.
you go to the Vietnam Memorial, and you go to, and even though like Thomas Jefferson was my favorite, what is it? My favorite president. I drove past it on my way to Northern Virginia and stuff like that. But like, yeah, you go and you're like, wow, they knew that they wanted to build this stuff. They knew they wanted people to remember
Yeah,
and to be witnesses, you know?
exactly. That's funny that was your favorite president. He's mine as well.
Is
And
he
when we
good, Shannon? Yes.
yes, and when I went to his memorial, you can ask Ann, I bawled like a baby and just yeah,
She
I
did.
could just feel it. And then reading the words on the wall, I could just it was like heard him speaking the words, like he did
Yeah.
to the people. And yeah, it was powerful.
He was such a brilliant man, like
Yes, he was.
he was so brilliant. And I think that going back to what we were saying about technology, like there was so much more brilliance because people had to sit there and really think about it, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're bar- they're burning candles. Nobody's calling them on the phone. They don't have the television to turn on. Like they have to tune into themselves. And history is full of people like that across the world. You have
yeah,
so many people that really, really took the time or had the time to reflect. And the Jefferson Monument, I mean, like, right on the Potomac, it just
yeah,
the
yeah.
rotunda,
It's
I mean, it's
amazing.
really just
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That one and also Martin Luther King's
Yes.
monument is powerful too. It's so
Very.
powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it really, I mean, all of them, and, like, so they unveiled the World War One monument a couple of years ago in DC, and they
Mhm.
still do, like, a bugle call. They still do the last post there every night at 5 p.m.
Yeah,
And so, and people will go to the World War II monument, the memorial, because it's closer. It's like right, the White House is here, and like the extension of the Great Lawn. It's like right beyond that.
yeah,
It's like on the other edge of the mall. It's like it's so amazing that they're still creating monuments for history.
yeah. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is. I think one of my favorite sayings about history is you can't know where you're going until you know where we've been.
Yeah.
History,
Mhm.
we need to keep it alive. It's important.
And it's ugly and it's dangerous and it's messy and maybe we revere the wrong people sometimes or whatever, but just to know that, I always think about history in terms of like, okay, we know Thomas Jefferson, we know Martin Luther King, we know all these people, but what about all these other people that you never heard about but still
Right.
lived similar lives or felt the same way? So yeah, you don't know where you're going if you don't know the past.
Right.
Exactly. And we have to embrace the fact that yes, our history is not all pretty. There's a lot
No.
of ugliness in it, but it is our history and we should honor it no matter what. Even if it's ugly, it should be honored and remembered and learned
Yes.
from so that we don't repeat it. And that's one thing that I think Europe gets so much better than we do here in the United States is because they honor all of their history. They don't
They
tear
do.
down historical buildings and, the different things. They restore it. They keep it, you know. I don't understand why we don't do that here.
I think that for maybe I'm making a huge presumption or assumption, like Americans are afraid of history because our history is so small and we're not reminded of it everywhere we go. And I think that with Europeans, it's just again like how I talked about with this journey. it's just a part of them. It's just a part of who they are and it's where they came from. Like Anne just said, they acknowledge where they came from.
Mhm.
When you live in Rome, why wouldn't you sit there and be like, yeah, the Roman Empire? You know, when you live in other places, you have to acknowledge that, like, yeah, you know what? It wasn't all good. Most of it was not good at all. But there was some brilliance. There was some and there's decadence and there was obviously all this other stuff, but like there was some good too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there was.
Well, Brianna, this conversation feels like a reminder that travel isn't always about escape.
Sometimes it's about understanding, remembering, and reflecting.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and for bringing these stories and these places to life.
Thank you so much
And
for having me. This was such a nice time.
I just wanted to thank you for reminding us that even in places marked by loss, there is still meaning to be found.
You're
Exactly. And we're so grateful that you were here to share that with us and remind us about that.
I'm so grateful to have been here and to have this reinforced with the way you ladies see the world too and the hope you still have.
Brianna, where can listeners find you and your books?
So you can find me on social media under Briana Gervat. And then my books are on Amazon. And I always say that if you don't want to get my book on Amazon, you can easily, happily message me and I will send one your way.
Brianna's information will be in the show notes and on our website, traveltimestories.com, where each of our guests has a dedicated page so you can learn more about them and listen to their episode. And if you would like to go deeper with any of the stories that you hear on our show, then please sign up for the Story Circle and become part of the community. Information is on our website.
And until next time, keep traveling your story and keep making memories for life.